We have David Spinks joining us here. This week we welcome a paranormal investigator, David Spinks, to Arcane Radio. David has been researching and investigating the paranormal since 1986 in various aspects due to several experiences he had as a young man. He's retired from over 20 years in the U.S. military and federal law enforcement, and since that time he's investigated the paranormal on a full-time basis and has conducted several hundred investigations during his time. He has investigated some of the most notoriously haunted locations in the U.S. and even a few in Europe. He has also investigated numerous private residences and has witnessed some of the most hair-raising and unnerving things one can imagine while investigating the paranormal. Dave is a co-founder of the Society of the Supernatural, along with paranormal researcher and colleague, our friend and author, David Weatherly. More information on SOS and Dave can be found at www.davespinks, S-P-I-N-K-S, paranormalinvestigator.com. And after the little brief PSA, we'll be back with Mr. Spinks. So stay tight, everybody.
I'm in almost every school bus and classroom. I go to school with your children.
We say the Pledge of Allegiance together.
You see me around the neighborhood and you tell me that I'm a pretty good kid.
Well, I'm one out of every 5 children in America, and I'm struggling with hunger.
This problem is closer than you think. My teacher tells me we can grow up to be whatever we want.
I want to grow up to be someone who doesn't go to bed hungry.
There's enough food in this country to feed everybody.
Please visit feedingamerica.org today and find your local food bank for ways to help.
Every dollar you donate helps provide 8 meals for kids like me, quietly struggling with hunger.
Together, we are Feeding America, brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
And folks, we're back. Arcane Radio, Sean Forker, Butch Witkowski, Lon Strickler, and our guest tonight, Mr. Dave Spinks. Dave, thanks for joining us, and welcome to Arcane Radio. Our pleasure. Lon, go ahead and get us kicked off.
David, I know I know you've been involved with some fairly interesting cases recently. In particular, the Moundsville case and some of the Mounds investigations that you and David Weatherly have been working on, as well as you had a more recent case. So, I'm just going to let you go right into what you want to talk about and fill us in on what you've been investigating.
Oh yeah, well, we became involved with the it's what it is. It's an old grade school in Moundsville, West Virginia, called the Sanford Elementary School, and this school's been closed down for many years. And several years ago, a group of other investigators went in there and they captured some pretty fantastic shadow figure action and stuff, and it ended up being on a TV show. Well, several years later, a friend of mine named Steve Hummel, he has a little museum that he keeps haunted artifacts in called Archive of the Afterlife Museum. Well, he had it in another location, and he had moved it into this notorious little school. So you have kind of a twofold situation there. You have a school that's built on ancient Native American burial ground, hence the town of Moundsville. Then you have the reports of hauntings going on in the school. And then you add in a friend of mine's museum, Steve Hummel's museum, with items that have attachments to on them. Mm-hmm. So, I've been up there several times, and I wanted to take David, and it so happens that Steve was putting on an event, so we went up a day early and to investigate this place because him or neither Sean, the other guy that was with us, had ever investigated the school or the museum. So we went up there, and he had just gotten a new piece in, and he was really excited about it. It was one of the actual first headpieces to the electric chair that was in the old West Virginia State Penitentiary. That's literally a mile and a half down the road.
Right.
So he had an actual piece in there that was confirmed to have executed at least 9 people. So, we were doing some stuff in the museum, and they moved over to this new piece, and I was just running the camera and stuff at first, for them. And it started getting really negative, and this guy, Tom, started coming through, and Steve confirmed with the list of people that he had that were executed by this particular piece, and one of the guys' names was Tom. So we thought that was interesting. Well, Tom, through the ghost box, we were running a bunch of questions and whatnot, and it was getting really negative in nature, and it was pretty much bragging about how he, killed a mom and her little daughter and stuff like that. And they were getting answer after answer on the ghost box, and it said, they said, who did you, give us the name of one of the women that you killed? And it said her name, clear as a bell. And then they told me, said, Dave, come over here. And I went over there, being ex-law enforcement and stuff. And I don't give those types of individuals any break. And I kind of started giving it down the road a little bit, and immediately the responses were, I'm going to kill you. And I felt like this electricity go over my hand to start off with, after it said it was going to kill me and stuff. And I started off by saying, what is this? And I pulled out my badge and whatnot, to try to, sometimes you use trigger objects when you do these investigations to try to elicit responses, to see if you're actually communicating with something intelligent. So I pulled out my badge, and I said, what is this? And the response was cop. And it was hitting dead on everything we were doing, being really negative towards me. And then the activity seemed to slow down on that particular piece. So we heard a noise over to the left. So we kind of migrated over there a little bit and started doing some stuff. And then I felt what I can only describe as something trying to stab me in my left kidney. And a little purplish blue mark appeared right there on my kidney. And that was really unnerving. And at the same time, there was a really bad thunder and lightning storm and rainstorm going on. So, one of the theories is that will sometimes amp up paranormal activity. So all this stuff that was going on, the location we were in, it was pretty intense. And once the activity stopped over there, after I felt like something tried to stab me, because it was making reference to that earlier on, saying it was going to attack me and kill me and all this stuff. And it seemed to quiet down. Well, I moved back over there, and I had stuck a millimeter on top of the case that held this electric chair headpiece. And David and the other guy, Sean, went down and we're doing a different area of the school. And me and the owner of the museum, Steve Hummel, were sitting there doing an EVP session. About 10 to 15 minutes in, the millimeter on top of that case starts going absolutely bonkers. And the meter that was being set off was the touch sensor meter. And what if you're not familiar with a millimeter, something has to break the plane of that antenna to set off the lights and the audible alarm. So you physically have to break the plane with your hand, or something does. So we immediately go over there and we start up an EVP session, and got nothing on the recorder other than Steve was telling it, if that's you again, set the millimeter off. Well, of course, the millimeter goes off several times in a row. So the other guys come back up, and I start doing a ghost box session right there next to it, and they break out the SLS camera. If you're not familiar with that, it's a device that runs off an Xbox Connect system, and what it does is it sends out millions of little laser beam type deals, and it will map out unseen figures with in human form, like a stick figure with these laser beams. Well, they were filming me with that, and of course the ghost box started getting really negative. It was saying "cop, pig, I'm gonna kill you," saying my first and last name. And I said, "Something's touching my neck, guys," and I can feel it. And at that exact moment on the SLS camera, they are mapping out a stick figure on my left side where I reported feeling something. It was actually punching me in the neck. And I became physically ill. I felt really nauseous, and then I actually had to stop the session, and I walked out of the room with with Steve was right there with me, and these two welts just raised up on my neck, right where that thing was hitting me. And it was almost it was really weird because they looked as if, when they electrocute someone in the old electric chairs, they would tie their necks, their arms, their legs down with these leather straps, and it looked like it was almost like they were burn marks on my neck where that thing was touching me. So that was really unnerving. I've been doing this a long time, and there's only been several occasions where something's actually physically lashed out on me, and that was one of them, and it was pretty intense, I have to say. Long story short, if folks want to watch the video of that, it's on our YouTube channel, on Society of the Supernatural's YouTube channel, Archive of the Afterlife Museum. You can check it out yourself and see what was going on.
That's interesting. I mean, I know, I firsthand, I've been attacked as well, and it's not fun. And I can relate to that. I'm looking here at your investigation. Boy, you guys have been busy. Especially this year, you've been busy.
Oh yeah.
You had mentioned something to me about Ripley's Believe It or Not. Now, I see one in Panama City, Florida, and one in Ocean City.
Yes.
Maybe you can talk about that a bit.
Yeah, it was really fascinating. We actually got asked to come into a couple of different Ripley's locations, which is pretty much unheard of, and it was a real honor for us to be invited down there. We first did Ripley's in Panama City because a lot of the employees were reporting, hearing strange footsteps, voices, and the whole 9 yards, unexplained knocks, bangs. Pretty much the whole gambit of paranormal activity. And we went down there and we spent a total of 2 nights. The first really interesting thing and really that blew us away was they had an African executioner's table in there. And it was a real item, legit item. And it was probably 4 feet across. It was very large, and it had African statues all around the bottom edge of it. And it actually had an indention on top of this table to me that appeared like where they had laid so many heads and chopped them off. It created an indention in the table. But we were standing there, we were again running a ghost box, and David had his SLS camera on the table, and a stick figure appeared right in the exact spot where that indention was, and was kneeling down as if it was replaying an actual execution of a person. And it was kneeling down in the correct position and everything, and then its head just disappeared, and then the whole entity that was being mapped out disappeared. So to us, that's very compelling because of what was going on before all that took place. We were actually asking it to do, we were hearing all these unexplained thumps and bangs on the ceiling. I was holding up, my finger saying, okay, if you can see me bang that many times, and I would hold up various different numbers on my hand, and lo and behold, we got it almost every single time. And then it led up to that event, which was very compelling. When you get multiple things going on like that, that's what you really look for as in being an investigator. You try to piece all that stuff together and say, okay, we had this and this going on. Yeah, that could actually be paranormal activity. And in that case, to us, we captured a residual event of someone being executed on that table.
Interesting. Anything else show up at that investigation?
Yeah, at that one we went over. It was in the same room. It was a really large room. The ceilings in there were like 20 feet in the air. And that particular Ripley's is built to look like a giant ship, almost kind of like a miniature Titanic. And we went over to another section of the room, and they had another African statue there. That basically what it was, you would go see, if you wanted to put a curse on someone, you would go see the local witch doctor, and he had one of these statues in there, and you would pay him whatever his fee was, and then tell him who you wanted a curse to be put on or to have bad luck or whatever the case may be, and he would drive a nail into this statue. And that was part of the ritual. Well, we went over there. This thing was covered in nails, by the way, old style, really old nails. So, it was a fairly old object, that Ripley had brought over from one of his excursions. And we had a Andes box there. Well, I turned on the Andes box, and we were going to start doing, kind of a Q&A question session. And out of nowhere, before we even asked anything, the box says, "Behold, Spinks," like that, saying my last name clear as a bell, and then the box just shut off. And it did not turn on the rest of the investigation. And then when I got home, it worked just fine. So it was like, wow. And, that was, very interesting in itself. What can do that? What has the energy or the power enough to physically manipulate some type of electronic equipment like that? The thing was fully charged, and I even put the charger back on it, and it still would not turn on. And then when I got home, it worked like nothing. So later on in the evening, we went down in a lower section of the museum, and they had what was a snake god. They called it a snake god. And what Weatherly was there, and we had the SLS camera on that, and it was making references to him on the box, and it said shaman. Now, if you don't know about David Weatherly's background, he trained under various shamanic people all over the world, and it was making reference to him being a shaman. And on the SLS camera, again, this thing was mapping out that thing striking at him like a snake. Wow. So, when you put all that kind of stuff together, it lends you to believe that, wow, there's really some energy attached to these artifacts and these objects. So, we surmise basically, the folks were, definitely experiencing energy that was attached to some of these items in the building. So, that's pretty compelling to us when we do places like that and we capture stuff like that.
Do you ever get involved with any type of clearing or any type of cleansing of these locations?
No, I don't. I don't do that myself. I don't. I'm of the mindset that I don't feel I'm qualified to do that.
Right. But you don't get involved with anybody else that does that.
No, well, if someone needs, like, if I get called to a residential and somebody, I go in and document some of their claims, and I feel that they do need help, I will put them in touch with folks that I know that will come in and cleanse, help them rid the place of whatever that is. That's kind of how I work my investigations.
So now that was Panama City. Anything unusual happened down in Ocean City?
Oh yeah, we had some crazy stuff happen there. They had sent, interestingly enough, the folks that were running the Ripley's in Panama City, they were tasked. They were the assistant managers, and they were tasked to take over the Ripley's in Ocean City. It had fallen into disrepair, and they did a really good job with the one in Panama City, so they sent them up there, and they had some remodeling to do. So they went in and remodeled the place, certain aspects of it, and they began having activity up there. And they even sent us video clips on the security cameras of things going on, strange mists and stuff manifesting inside the museum, as well as excuse me, as well as a they had a document that was screwed into the wall, in a frame. And on the security cam, it was actually physically, you could see it come off the wall and slam to the ground and break. And then once it hit the ground, it was kicked in a it looked like something just kicked it in a totally different direction, sideways, and it slid across the floor a couple of feet.
What was the document pertaining to?
The document was an old, looked like I believe it was an arrest warrant for a guy that was in the military from the British Army who had went AWOL, and it was an arrest warrant. So, and it was a really old document, and they called us up there. Hey guys, we're getting this kind of stuff on the cameras in this one particular section of the museum. We're hearing footsteps. It feels really bad. It feels like someone's up on you, breathing on your neck. I mean, just, all kinds of reports of stuff like that. So we went up there and spent a couple of nights there, and we were in the area that document was ripped off the wall and smashed on the ground. And there happened to be a book of inmates from San Quentin and some other prisons there with their pictures and mugshots in it. And of course, the same type of thing started happening to me again. It started making references to cop, and it was going to attack me and all that kind of stuff. And they got it on the SLS camera again of something trying to kick me and strike me in the head. I was sitting down on the floor, and they got it again, attacking me. So it seems to me, and that's not I've had several instances where I've gone to different various reported haunted prisons and whatnot, and they just don't like me there because of my background in law enforcement. So, it lends itself to being pretty compelling when you get that type of situation, being prior law enforcement and these type of entities. We kind of say it on many shows that we're on, if the guys or the spirits were buttholes when they're alive, the more likely they're going to be a butthole when they're dead too.
Well, yeah, I mean, if they are if they're an earthbound energy, yeah. If they had issues when they were alive, they definitely have issues.
You've always said that, Lon. That's always been your rule of thumb.
Yeah, it's true. So
yeah, it seems to be the case in a lot of cases. We do.
So do you ever protect yourself before you go into these situations? I mean, I know I would. I mean, I'd use some type of some metaphysical protection, some psychic protection, somehow.
Yeah, I'm getting some feedback or something.
Wow.
Are you there? I don't know. That was weird.
Yeah, that was bizarre.
It's probably a spirit trying to come through.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time that happened, but that was kind of odd there. Did you hear that, Sean?
I was put a pair of handcuffs here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be the case, and a lot of times, that we've dealt with over the years, we don't, we really don't ascertain that it's a demon like so many other people. They automatically assume if something.
I know. I mean, I get so tired of people telling me there's demonic this, demonic that. Look, I've only ever been involved with one demon case that I believe was a demonic case. And if it happened, if you get involved with a demonic case, you know it. I mean, that's an entirely different animal. And I don't even work with demonic cases. I send that to the church because I don't even bother with that because I just don't have the skills to take care of that. But,
right, and that's what we tell people. A lot of people don't understand that this can be very dangerous, whether you're dealing with a demonic or not dealing with a demonic. Some of these spirits do have the means to physically hurt you. It's happened to me. It's happened to David. It's happened to many other people I know that have been investigating for many years. They do have the power to reach out and touch you, per se, no pun intended, but they can attach to you. They can follow you home and create havoc in your life if you're not careful. And going back to your question, yeah, I do say some
Hello.
seem to help a lot, but it doesn't always work. Sometimes they do try to follow.
Skype tonight, Lon. We're having some Skype interference.
Yeah, you're having some paranormal interference. That's what you're having.
And it happens.
Well, I do live on top of a haunted mountain, so.
Well, that doesn't help, I'm quite sure. No, I mean, I've had lacerations, I've had bruised ribs, I've had all kinds of crazy stuff happen to me during sessions, and yeah, it does happen. I actually had a Creole religion infestation about 2 years ago, and that was the first time I ever ran into that. Took a lot of research, but I'm telling you, it's amazing some of the stuff that people run into, and I can understand. I mean, you know what you experience doing what you do, and basically calling out these entities. I mean, it can be dangerous.
Yeah, sometimes you catch a lot of flack for certain ways you communicate with
Yeah.
spirits, but I'm in a personal belief that there's no right or wrong way to do this. However, you go into a certain location, you're not going to just go off and start spouting at the mouth, and
No.
but I'm kind of in the mindset, if a thing starts becoming negative towards me, I'm not going to allow it to keep it trying to attack me and whatnot. I'm going to tell it like it is, and if it doesn't like it, that's too bad. Each situation is different, each investigation is different. You never know what you're going to get. We still don't know exactly what we're communicating with because there's no way to prove it, but after you do this for so many years, you can walk into a place and you can kind of feel the energy. You become more open to it, and the spirits know that. You can feel if it's a sad location or a happy or a negative. You can feel that a lot of times, and like I said, each place is different, and you never know what you're going to get. So you got to be prepared to use several different communication techniques, whether it might be a little bit of provoking or protecting yourself, or or whatnot. It just depends. Everything's different. You just don't know what you're going to get.
Right. So I see here you're also into some cryptid investigation as well.
Absolutely.
I noticed that this year and I guess David was with you. We're in Loveland, Ohio, on the Little Miami.
Oh yeah, man.
Did you experience anything while you were there?
No, we just went to the actual site of the frogman sightings, back in the 50s and stuff, and did a little we call it our local legend series, and we like to, when we're out investigating, if we're around one of those areas, we'll pop in and just talk about it, and give a surmise what's going on. But we actually went out to the site where the police officers had the sighting, and
Right.
as far as habitat would go for something like that, it's right there. Let me tell you, you got the Little Miami River on one side, you got creeks flowing into the Little Miami River with wooded areas all over that whole road. So it's a very bizarre story. It's one of those ones that are way out there in nature, and we thought, man, that's a cool little story to go check out, and let's go do it. So we did it.
I've received over the years several reports from Loveland in this frogman like entity and whatever it is. So it's still going on, and in fact, I had a interesting Bigfoot report in right there as well. So I mean, it may be one of those areas where just where strange phenomena occurs. But yeah, this has been going on for quite a while, and I still do get reports in there. Now, do you ever do any Bigfoot investigations?
Oh yeah, that's doing Bigfoot and Sasquatch is really what started me in being fascinated with the paranormal. Way back when I was a kid, I had an encounter with my grandfather, and here in West Virginia when we were fishing, and found out several other family members of mine had encounters with some squatches in the same general area. So when I got out of the military, I came back home, here to West Virginia, and started my family and whatnot. And I started collecting many, many stories from local people here. And, it's just been an ongoing thing that I'm working on right now. But it's fascinating. It's a hot spot here. It's been going on since, the Native Americans have reported the West Virginia Stone Man in English,
Right.
is what in English terminology is what the native language equates to for many, many years. And especially in my county alone where I live, there's just numerous
What part of
sightings.
West Virginia are you at?
I live in South Central West Virginia, and it's called Nicholas County.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, there's just a ton of sightings here. And it fascinates me. I've even done some live Sasquatch hunts on my YouTube channel, which is called Real Supernatural. You guys can check it out on there. I go out into the wood. I'm basically where I live. Like I said, I'm on top of a mountain, surrounded by millions of acres of wilderness. And for a large bipedal creature to live, the habitat's perfect here. There's plenty of food. There's water. There's all kinds of stuff to eat for them. And there's caves, you name it. It's a perfect location, for a squash.
It's definitely wild and wonderful. No doubt about that.
Oh, yeah.
I gotten some really strange things in West Virginia over the years. And, what's interesting to me is how much of this phenomena happens in Mason County, in and around Point Pleasant, or in the environs.
Yeah.
And the big thing right now are these dogman sightings or upright canine sightings down there. We've been working with our friend Rob Shaw.
Yep.
He's been reporting some of the activity, but then of course Butch and I have been involved with the upright canines here in Pennsylvania, and I don't know how much of a phenomena what you've been getting reported down there, but have you noticed anything similar to that down there where you're at?
Yeah, I think some of the possibly, I can't confirm this, but I think a few of the sightings that have been reported to me sound more like a dogman than they do a squatch, from the descriptions I've received from the witnesses. And who's to say
Right.
what they saw? A lot of times the sightings occur at night, and with the headlights or whatever it may be, and they don't get a really good solid look. But I think there's something to all of it, and that's why I do what I do. As far as Point Pleasant goes, I don't know if you know, but me and David have done a lot of work up there as well, and we're
Right.
coming out with our first DVD called The Point Pleasant Files in the next couple of weeks that will be out for release. And Point Pleasant is just one of those areas of high strangeness, man. I mean, it's got so much stuff. You got the convergence of two major rivers, the Kanawha and the Ohio River, right there. You've got, the old munitions plant from World War II. All these UFO sightings, Mothman, ghost hauntings, you name it, it's happened there. So, it's just one of those areas that, we look at these geomagnetical areas or these ley lines and these, it's got two major waterways. All these factors seem to correlate with a lot of the activity that goes on in some of these locations.
Have you been able to map out any ley lines in that area?
In my area?
I mean, in Point Pleasant.
There's some, but they're not dead on. But I think with the combination of the two, massive waterways there, there's also reports of lizard type creatures there.
Yeah, I know.
Dogmen. I mean, there's so many different reports, as I'm sure you know, of different things going on. It's just one of those areas of high strangeness. And, there's more to be done there. There's a lot more to be done, as far as trying to map out some of these, see if they're, the geomagnetical anomalous areas like that. See if you can, come up with some good scientific evidence of anything like that to help, maybe get a small piece to that puzzle.
Well, one thing we've been noticing up here, and I think Butch and Sean will attest to this, for whatever reason, the last year or so, the Sasquatch Bigfoot sightings have really waned off. We do not get that many anymore. But then again, in lieu of that, we've been getting more upright canine sightings and UFO sightings. I just don't know the reason why. And I mean, have you been noticing anything similar to that down there?
Um, it hasn't really varied much. I mean, it seems to be. I mean, just here in my county last year, there was seven different reported sightings to me of Sasquatches here in my county.
Mm-hmm.
Not counting the ones that go unreported. So many sightings go unreported because people are scared to be ridiculed and whatnot. You know,
Sure.
so I thought that was an unusually high number last year and part of this year, along with several other sightings throughout the state I've received. And most of them have seemed to be Sasquatch type sightings. And a few of them, like I said, I think the descriptions sound more like a dog man. But UFOs, I haven't gotten sightings. I haven't had too many of those lately. Last year, I had 5 reported to me. So, a couple here in my general area, one county over and one in my county, and then several others around the state. So, you know, I think West Virginia, you know, the Appalachian Mountains in general, you know, they're some of the oldest mountains in the world, and I think they have that strangeness, as we talk about, you know, attached to them in many different ways.
Yeah, I've done work years ago down in the Shenandoah Valley, and just like, well, Front Royal, I believe Front Royal is one of the weirdest towns.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some strange stuff that really goes on down there, and you know, I don't know if it's because all the cavern. Oh, I mean, the place is full of caverns south of there, and you know, it just seems like a strange location. But you know, I was, you know, Butch and I have been, well, Sean too, have been looking into this, this upright canine sightings and encounters, especially in central Pennsylvania. And you had mentioned that there may be a connection with the Bigfoot sightings may actually be dog man and vice versa, and I believe that. Butch has made a point to go back to older reports and to you know, to see if they may possibly have been upright canine sightings.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, we have had in the last year and a half, we have had I think 21 credible sightings here in PA, and most of those are in the central Pennsylvania area. And why this is happening, I don't know. You know, it's still hard to figure out. I believe it's supernatural, but I don't know. You know, there is some attest to that could be flesh and blood, but they're just really odd. And I do believe there is a possibility that they do migrate, and in fact, I believe they migrate through valleys, through mountain valleys from central Pennsylvania, south central Pennsylvania, into Maryland and into West Virginia.
Yeah,
and
I do too. That location we were at up there, you know, that valley up there is a prime spot for something of those sorts to be migrating down through. You know,
yeah,
it's huge. I mean, it's so rugged in nature. People aren't going to track through there very much. And just like West Virginia here, there's locations in West Virginia that a human probably hasn't stepped foot on in 100 years because it's so remote and rugged. You know,
same with up here. Yeah. You know, it's funny. We were when Butch and I were coming back from Fayette County about a month ago. You know, and you know, where you and Dave were at as well. We were coming west on Route 30 in Pennsylvania from Chambersburg towards Michaud State Park. Now, Michaud State Forest has been known for Bigfoot activity, but we've got some indications that there have been some upright canine too. But you know, it was the perspective that I got was on the road looking at the South Mountain Ridge. I mean, it's amazing how it extends north to south. I just didn't realize, even though I've lived up here all, you know, and been around here all my life, that how far this ridge extends south. into Maryland, into
Yep.
West Virginia.
Yep.
You know, they can migrate through there, and nothing would ever see them.
Yeah, exactly. And I often, myself and David, we often talk about this. Most people live in city or suburban areas. Okay, they don't go out in the woods. They're too busy with their everyday 9 to 5 jobs. They're worried about the kids. They're worried about work. They got their face it buried in their phone or whatever the case may be. And they do not look at their surroundings. I often tell people I could hide 20 yards from you behind a tree and you would never know I was there.
Yeah.
And people just don't pay attention to their surroundings, let alone go into the wilderness, because it's just not what people do. They're too busy with their normal lives and their jobs and the kids and whatnot. And, they don't believe in these type of things because number one, most of them have never had an encounter. Number two, they just don't go into the woods, or they don't live around any wilderness. The whole state of West Virginia is nothing but woods and mountains.
Right.
And same with most of PA is the same way, other than the large urban centers, So people really don't understand how vast these parks and these wildlife preserves and everything are. They're just massive.
Yeah, when you do get out there, you get a better perspective of what you're dealing with, and just like the Appalachian Trail, which actually runs through Micho State Forest. I mean, and some of the reports that have come in over the years from down in Virginia, West Virginia, I don't think West Virginia, but in Virginia into Pennsylvania, along that trail are pretty hair raising. I mean, there have been deaths. There have been deaths along that trail, and I myself, in particular, some of the reports that I have looked into down in Virginia, I believe some of those are attacks, possibly upright canine dogman or Bigfoot attacks.
Oh yeah, it's definitely possible. There's a lot of people that go in on the Appalachian Trail that are never heard of or seen again, and they find a backpack or some clothes or something, and that's about it.
Yeah, that's happened more than people realize. And it's not just on the trail itself. I mean, you look at the work that David Pilates has been doing and the documenting of the 411. It's pretty amazing how many people disappear.
Oh yeah, it's astounding, the numbers. Excuse me. A lot of that, some of that can be attributed to satanic cults and the human trafficking organizations, but others that go into the woods camping. I mean, people have disappeared right next to their families in the woods, and no one can figure out what happened to them.
That's what that's what kind of gets me thinking about portals and alternate realities, and how people can kind of slip through one of these things and just never be seen again.
Oh yeah, that's a whole nother show in itself right there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's just like with this stuff we're dealing with out in Chicago now. I mean, God knows where that's coming from. And, I'm so open-minded about this at this point. I really hate to speculate, but you gotta wonder what's really going on.
Oh yeah. I mean, what is it up to? 13 or 14 sightings now in a short span?
Yeah. 12 sightings in the past 2.5 months, something like that.
Yeah, that's some kind of, whether that's some kind of weird UFO flap or some kind of weird, I mean, that's compelling in itself. I mean, that's pretty intense stuff right there. And you have normal everyday people that, come forward and tell these stories that they may have something to lose depending on what their job is and who they are in their respective communities.
Well, I just like to get
when that happens, I mean, it's
yeah. So okay, guys, I've been Sean here long enough. So Sean and Butch, you have anything to add?
Well, we do have a question from the chat room.
Okay,
sure.
And the question for Dave is from Vance, and Vance would like to know, with the plethora of creatures that exist in our reality, is it not a possibility that there is a plethora of creatures that exist beyond a veil that cross over here, but that they are all from the same place?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's possible. As far as them being from the same place, who knows? I mean, but I definitely think there are. It's been proven there's alternate dimensions already, scientifically. So I think in some aspects, yeah, stuff can cross through those dimensions into ours and sometimes create havoc. You know.
Yeah, I think that's what we're running into a lot of this cryptid activity we get. It's we don't find Bigfoot bodies, we don't find Dogman bodies, we don't find Mothman bodies. So, they're going somewhere. No doubt about that.
Well, and you can also go back to the, as far as finding, say, a Squatch body. I've been hunting in the woods of West Virginia my entire life, and I've never come across a bear carcass because
Yeah, we're getting gremlins again.
Gremlins.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I used to hunt a lot, and I never ran across even a deer carcass. I mean, this stuff just
the rate of decay.
Yeah, the rate of decay, predators. I mean, it's
Yeah, it'll blow you away how fast something will disappear.
Yeah,
but it's small. Yeah.
What you got anything?
Well, if he runs into anything that's 8 to 10 foot tall, it's got a large wolf-like head, I'd like to talk to him about it.
Oh yeah, me too. I'd love to run into something like that and get it on footage.
I don't know if I want to run up against anything like that. I'll let somebody else run up against it and give me a picture, give me a video.
Just put me in the Velcro suit.
So you had done investigations down the TNT bunkers too, down in Point Pleasant. That is one weird area down there. It's been a long time since I've been down there, but I'm telling you, you're right. I mean, it is so strange. I mean, and this is one thing that I have had people tell me, and I experienced it myself at one point. That TNT area is almost like walking in and out of different dimensions.
Yeah.
Did you ever notice that phenomena when you were down there?
It doesn't feel.
Boy, Skype is really giving us a fit tonight.
Man, that is really good. You guys still hear me?
Kind of off and on.
That is weird.
Yeah. Yeah, this is, I don't think this is just Skype.
No, because I'm on my phone and it's maxed out on signal, so I don't know.
Yeah, same with me. I mean, I don't know about you, Sean, what it looks like up your way.
I'm hearing every other word of everyone.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Well, this does happen on occasion, unfortunately.
So I just make it up as I go along. So we could be saying many things. In my head, it sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Let's see if that's any better. Can you both hear me okay?
Yeah, hear you fine.
Hear you fine.
Right. That's live radio, folks, right there. And
I lost you totally now.
Oh, well, I kind of hear you once in a while.
Yeah. Well, that's
well, maybe I'll wrap this up and we'll go from there. Hey, Dave, thanks for joining us, man. We really appreciate you coming on with us, and maybe we can have you on again.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't catch the last part what you said.
No, I just said, we're glad to we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thanks for coming on with us, and maybe we can get you under better circumstances to come on with us and explain and detail some of your investigations.
Oh, for sure, guys. It'd be my pleasure. And anytime, just let me know when you want me on, and I'll come on.
Excellent.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming on, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Have
Dave.
a great night.
You too.
Mhm.
Too.
David Spinks, folks. So, well, that's what happens sometimes with the live radio there, huh?
Yeah. Well, it was just a signal problem or something.
Or
Our
was it?
gremlins. We haven't had gremlins in a while, but
Was it something
there's
more
one. I did want
nefarious?
to talk. I did want to talk to him about Cheat Lake, West Virginia. He had been down there back last year in investigation. We had a pretty interesting dogman report down there.
Cheat Lake?
Cheat Lake. It's right across the line from Pennsylvania. What is that? Monongahela,
Don't hurt yourself.
County in West Virginia. But
Yeah.
we had a dogman encounter down there that was reported to me, and I wanted to ask him about that. But we'll ask about it next time we get him on.
Well, Jennifer asked a question in the chat room, and maybe we could answer it, guys. Jennifer
Okay.
would like to know, what is your opinion of Mothman? Do you think he is more a spiritual entity or actual animal? Such as, do you think it has some kind of human intelligence?
Well, personally, I don't think it's a spirit. I think it may be actually flesh and blood, but I think it crosses over from a different reality. Now, something I mentioned the other night, last night when I was on Acrylic Ranch with Vance, was we had been getting reports of large flashes of light south of the city. In particular, we've had two of them down in Chicago Heights, one just near Calumet Park, and there was another one that was third-hand information. I don't know exactly where it was at, but anyway, these large flashes of light at night have been going off, and people have no idea what they are. I've seen the reports. They've been recent reports. So I just start, look, I anything that's coming out of that area, I'm looking at closely, So I don't know if that's some kind of doorway, gateway, portal opening up, but in the past when I have had similar type of reports, people would swear they saw strange phenomena related to it. So that's one thing to consider. As far as the Mothman or flying humanoid type creatures, I believe they may actually be flesh and blood. They may be shapeshifters of some type, but I do believe they come from another reality.
Butch, what say ye?
I'm kind of leaning toward what Lon's saying, because there have been reports of these flashes of lights in the woods when Bigfoot are seen, and we had the one report of the bipedal canine with the aura of light around it or in back of it. But then again, we did have one that was chewing on a carcass, so that would make it flesh and blood.
Yeah.
And in or out of a doorway or all-lit reality, I'm not putting anything past anything anymore. I mean, it's just getting too weird. I checked on UFO sightings in January from January till now in Pennsylvania. They're way down.
Yeah.
And so I keeping an open mind again. We don't really know what we're dealing with yet.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's the best explanation I can come up with at this point. I mean, I've had similar thoughts when I investigate a lot of these reports. I don't know how the people realize this, but this Mothman phenomena has been going on for ever since the original reports down in Point Pleasant, even before that. I have had a lot of reports up and down the Ohio River Valley for years of people, encountering these these red-eyed Mothman-looking creatures. In and around the Cincinnati area in particular, south of Point Pleasant, it has happened. I've had at least a dozen reports over the years. And
but are they the same as the Mothman of Point Pleasant?
Yeah, those are. Those, for the most part, are. It's always the same body description, wing description, and the bright orange red eyes. That tends to be very prominent. Now these sightings we're having in Chicago, not so much so. I mean, some of the early sightings that, kind of sounded like the Mothman or an owl man, which a lot of people described it as.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely.
That had the large red eyes. But lately, it's been a huge black humanoid that none of the bright eyes or bright colored eyes are noticed. But it looks more like a bat, a membrane type of wing. Is it a shapeshifter and we got one being that's changing? We had one sighting where we had multiple beings. Are there two of them? Are there more than two? I mean, why is it going on there? I mean, it's just, it's mind-boggling. And I tell you, the reports we've been getting, they're very credible. Very credible.
Well, I don't think necessarily what is being seen in all these areas, from Mothman to Owlman, are the same thing at all. I think, though some of them have the same description, I think there's some misidentifications along the way. I think that there could be, Vance points out, Thunderbird sightings could be Mothman. I agree with that. There are the sightings, like Bill talked about tonight, this black, footballish, bullet-shaped entity that almost seemed like it shape-shifted in the air. And how do you explain that? And I'm trying to put myself in his position as we were listening to Bill tonight, and I wrote down some notes about how I would feel seeing something like that. And I guess my first reaction would be try to rationalize it. What the hell is that? ... What is it? And at a certain point, you run out of explanations, but the mind's immediately trained to go to what's familiar, right? And sometimes I feel, and you and I have talked about it, and Butch, we've talked about it on air and off air, is that, the mind tends to go to what's familiar. And it's why I pointed out the cultural background and the ethnic makeup of these witnesses. Is there a correlation or a connection between it? And if we went back to the Mothman sightings, could we say the same thing? Are these more easily explainable as, partial thought forms that we see something and then our mind identifies with what it's comfortable with? Or is it something else? That's the question I'm trying to ask myself and see if I can come up with a logical answer. I'm having a hard time with that one because the sightings are so varied. And though some of them are similar, they're very different in itself. Bill's sighting tonight was a lot different than what we've got before.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's it was in a way humanoid, but then he said it kind of changed in a way. I mean, is that possible? I guess it may be.
That's why I wanted to know how he felt when he saw it.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up thought form, zoo form. I guess maybe certain people are seeing it as something different. Maybe the way it presents itself to certain people. I don't know. I mean, this case in particular, and look, these flying humanoid sightings have been, and even pterodactyl-like pterosaur sightings here in PA have been going on for years.
Especially up in my neck of the woods.
Butler gargoyle. I mean, the Butler gargoyle is a perfect example. Now, this thing just turned up recently. I've written about it. Apparently, there was a traffic accident in Butler County by a truck driver who swears this thing ran across the road and he veered off. This entity has been seen numerous times. and it's basically described as a gargoyle, a huge gargoyle. But it could be also described as a Mothman or a man bat or whatever as well. I mean, I guess a person's perception is much different than what somebody else has as well. I mean, but then again, you think shapeshift possibly? I really don't. I keep an open mind on all this now. I mean, I'm taking the information, and all I can do is present it. But I really would like to be able to kind of figure out what's going on.
That kind of reminds me of an episode. I don't know if you remember the TV show Babylon 5.
Yeah.
Sci-fi show. One of my favorite sci-fi shows. And in one of the seasons, I think it was the season 3 finale, one of the alien ambassadors is never seen outside his encounter suit, right? And these Vorlon aliens are very mystical, and nobody's ever seen one. And as the captain is in danger, Kosh has to make this conscious decision to rescue him, so he allows himself to be seen by people. And everybody but one alien race, but all the other races and people see him in his form, and he's an angel. That's what he looks like to people, an angelic being. And over the years, you find out that the Vorlons have really conditioned humans and other aliens to see them as beings of light and beings of, of good. And that's kind of resonated with me with some of these things. Like, have we been conditioned, or have we conditioned ourselves to see these things in a way that's most comfortable for us? I don't know. It gets the mind going. We're not going to have an answer for it tonight, but as we've talked about, it may be something for our listeners to ponder and shoot back to us. Is just along those lines, and I think it's worth further discussion. But guys, people, I think after this we all submit things, right? We've seen these reports, and I think we have to admit people are seeing something.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in our minds at this point. It's 12 sightings now, 13 sightings. People are seeing something. It was very brave of Bill to come on here and share his story. The first one that's come on any program that I know of to share his encounter. So we owe him a big thank you for that. And, his message is quite simple. I did this not for fame or for any other reason, but I hope other people that have experienced something the same, something similar, can come on and share their story. And that's incredibly important.
Well, we'll keep reporting it, and I'm pretty positive we'll probably have something again next week. Right. I mean, it does seem to run on a weekly basis, but who knows?
Folks, I'd like to thank our listeners tonight and our folks in the chat room every week: Vance, Jennifer, Junior, Linda, all our folks that come in here tonight, Laura, Dan, thank you for coming in and participating in the chat room. Of course, the chat room is very important to the interactivity of the show. Go to arcaneradio.com for the latest news and information on the show. Follow us on Twitter at Radio Arcane. Follow us on Facebook at Arcane Radio Show. And, of course, you can follow us all on our respective pages, thefortshop.net, phantomsandmonsters.com, and PAU4cop.com. Guys, anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I guess next week we'll have some type of discussion. We don't have a guest booked, but that's tentative. If something else comes up, we'll try to get somebody on that on a current story. Maybe we'll get another Mothman witness. Who knows? But we'll be discussing something next week. I don't know exactly what it is at this point, but we'll figure something out between now and then.
Well, something topical we could discuss is Warner Brothers. The lawsuit against Warner Brothers against the one author of the book that's saying the Warrens are full of shit. So I think that could be an interesting conversation point.
Yeah, well, that's wow.
I think it was like $999 million or something like that. It was an outrageous sum of money. It was huge, and that's a little bit old news, but we haven't talked about it. That could be interesting. Maybe we could talk about Hollywood fact or fiction when it comes to some of these paranormal cases, guys.
Yeah, it's that may be a good topic.
Well, folks, you tune in and let us know. ArcaneRadioShow@gmail.com or for thoughts, comments, and keep it clean, folks. My mother could be reading them. She won't, but you never know. We thank you again for tuning in, letting us into your homes each and every week. And again, go to our website, arcaneradio.com, click on For the Cause, and pay attention to some of the causes that we firmly believe in: feeding America, especially now, more kids home for the summer. We don't want our kids to be hungry, folks. Regardless of whatever political affiliation you belong to, whatever you believe, kids don't deserve to go to bed without a proper meal. And that's something I really, truly believe in. And we're going to be working with some of these groups to have some pretty cool giveaways and prizes to make sure that we're taking care of each other a little bit as well. And on that note, folks, thank you. On behalf of Lon, Butch, and myself, good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.